there's a number of things we can write on that. Sometimes current events, sometimes just things to keep people abreast of what's going on, about to understand more the next time we write something. Another abridgment of private property rights is zoning.
Yeah.
And while zoning today has a different look, there's a really, people need to go back and look at zoning. Where did it come from? Is it, what was its intentions? What did it really create? How can that be remedied today? How does that even fall into the realm of social inequity or racial inequity? It does. We'll show you how. And because that's an important thing for people to consider today, especially as they consider maybe redeveloping certain areas and all kinds of new programs, and right, a lot of different aspects to this. So zoning, and zoning is also critical because it then leads to the next step, and that is this conversation we have about value of real estate and inflation, and how the real estate just keeps going up, primarily because the value of the land goes up, because the property actually has a certain amount of physical deterioration. So you buy a property, it wears out, but the overall value goes up. Why? Because the land value goes up. And part of the reason the land value goes up is based on zoning. We've known this for years. We've known this for years. We talk about the use. We talk about value, John. What are the four? Not the four great forces, but the elements of value. Yeah, or STUD, right?
Right.
The elements of value. And we talk about demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. So what creates value? And value leads to what people will pay for things. So value is driven by, and appraisers look at it, the four elements of value: demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. And so typically you got demand, supply and demand in there. And so when you limit supply and when you stimulate demand, you're going to affect value. And that affects value. That's all, every appraiser knows that. And everybody that sells real estate knows that. So you got demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. So if you can limit what you can do with property, if you can limit its utility, you're going to limit its value. And so typically, the more utility that a property is capable of handling, the more valuable the property is. So commercial property typically more valuable than residential property. Why? Because residential property can handle one person or one family, and commercial property can handle a shopping center, or right. So the more intense the use, typically, the more valuable the property is. That's because you on the utility side. And it's not 100%, but it's pretty, so what's one of the things that limits utility of property? Zoning. And so if you can only build one unit on a lot, that just limited the utility of that property. Now, what if you could build a 100-unit apartment building on that lot? What would happen? Would that lot be worth more? Yeah. Right? Because, and so so zoning takes that right away from you. You live in a house, it's zoned, you could only build one house there. You own the land, you own the house. You mean that if it's big enough to handle 4 units, 8 units, can I build 4 units, 8 units? No. Why not? Because it's not zoned. That's the government has taken the right of you to build more than 1 unit away from you. And so now I got all this room. Yeah, you got all that room, but that's too bad. Minimum lot size. And you can't build any more than that. Well, shoot, then what happens? More people move to the area, more people want to live, and housing goes up. And then you get people that say, well, we don't want more building, and it restricts the building. And so you end up in this great undersupply of adequate housing.